power of the sea is awesome. Its large waves have 3 tons of pressure per square foot. A wave 10 feet high and 1 mile wide has more than 300 million pounds of power, a force equal to an atom bomb. Millions of Americans throng to the beaches each summer weekend. All of us assume we are safe from tidal waves. Our sense of security can suddenly be shattered. This happened in the Kuril Islands, north of Japan, in 1969, as seen in this extraordinary film of the actual tidal wave. In 1979, tidal waves killed 200 people in Indonesia. Where will they strike next? Hilo, Hawaii, a peaceful coastal town located in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Few places in the United States are as blessed with the combination of sun, sea, and beautiful weather as Hilo, Hawaii. At the same time, few places are as constantly threatened. On April Fool's Day 1946, a tremendous tidal wave took the residents of Hilo by surprise. The tidal wave raced up the town's main river, destroying Hilo's only railroad. These photographs show a man on the dock being swept to his death by the giant wave. Seconds later, he is gone. More than 170 people were killed. Hilo was left a water-soaked ghost town, still vulnerable to another tidal wave attack at any time.
Nothing makes us feel as helpless as facing natural disasters. We're frightened by the prospect of feeling an earthquake or being caught in a tornado, a thunderstorm, or a fire. None of them strikes with the suddenness and savagery of the so-called tsunami, the Japanese word for tidal wave.
They are born miles below the surface, underneath the seemingly tranquil ocean floor. Strong underwater disturbances, such as a volcanic eruption, may generate a tsunami. Underwater earthquakes are the most common cause of tidal waves. When the Earth shifts vertically, tons of water are forced upward. A series of tidal waves form on the surface, spreading out from the epicenter in every direction. The massive energy of the wave pulsates to the deepest depths. Once born, the tsunami cannot be stopped or controlled. From this origin, tidal waves travel thousands of miles, losing very little energy. On the open ocean, the wave is only a few inches high, passing undetected beneath ships at sea. It races across the ocean at speeds in excess of 500 miles per hour, each wave more than 100 miles long. As the tsunami enters shallow water, it suddenly slows down. The forward energy can rise up hundreds of feet, forming a terrifying wall of water. The tsunami that hit the island of Oahu in 1946 shows how a seemingly harmless wave can quickly inundate a shoreline. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center was established in Honolulu to predict where tidal waves will strike. Seismographs monitor the Pacific for earthquakes which can generate tsunamis. The Warning Center is in constant touch with tide stations throughout the Pacific. These stations measure changes in the water level, indicating a tidal wave's exact location and direction. Once its location is known, the wave's estimated time of arrival to any area can be calculated. A warning can then be issued. These procedures were in full operation at the Warning Center on May 22nd, 1960. In Search Of will recreate the events of this day, a day the residents of Hilo will never forget. 9:38 a.m. 7,000 miles away, a tremendous earthquake shatters the coast of Chile. Seismographs at the Warning Center violently react to the earthquake's intensity.
Tom, we got a big one here.
What do we have, Ed?
Well, it looks like oh boy, that's a big P. Looks like we've got a real good quake here.
It is now a race against time. The men at the Warning Center first determine the quake's magnitude.
8.5, Tom. We got a tsunami.
Throughout the morning, the residents of Hilo, Hawaii go about their usual business, as yet unaware of the sequence of events taking place. 10:27 a.m. Tide information is requested from Valparaiso, Chile, the closest tide station to the epicenter. From Chile, it will take the wave 15 hours to reach the Hawaiian Islands. 12:18 p.m. The first tide report comes in from Chile.
Here's Valparaiso reporting unusual wave activity.
Yeah, we've got a good wave here. We better give a Pacific-wide advisory. We do have a tsunami spreading across the Pacific.
James Look of the Army Corps of Engineers is sent to Hilo to record eyewitness observations. So little was known about a tsunami's impact that a first-hand account was deemed extremely valuable. James Look decides that a bridge on the bay itself is a safe location. He starts to record normal changes in the water level and currents. at 12:19 p.m. The decision is made to issue a preliminary bulletin to the Hawaiian Civil Defense.
This is a seismic sea wave advisory bulletin. A severe earthquake has occurred in Chile. It is possible that damaging sea wave has been generated. We do not know at this time, but tide reports are expected late this afternoon.
At 5 o'clock, the wave passes the halfway point to Hilo. It has been 14 years since the last major tsunami. Forgotten is the fact that Hilo's bay acts as a funnel, sucking in a wave, further magnifying its height and destructive force. At 6:47 p.m., the general warning is issued to the public.
Attention all stations. Attention all stations. This is the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. This is a tsunami warning. A severe earthquake in Chile has generated a tsunami which is spreading over the Pacific Ocean. The estimated time of arrival of the first wave is 12 midnight for the island of Hawaii and about 30 minutes later for the island of Oahu. The danger may last for several hours. The intensity of the wave cannot be predicted.
May 22nd, 1960. The tidal wave races toward the Hawaiian Islands. Tide stations closer to Hawaii begin reporting to the warning center.
Getting some information from Tahiti. They're reporting unusual wave activity at 09 p.m. our time.
Hilo is only 3 hours away. From his observation point on the bridge, James Look waits for the water to recede, the first sign of the tidal wave's approach. Hilo's fishermen know the sea. They rush towards open water, hoping to escape the wave's devastating impact. Shortly after midnight, a small wave enters the bay. It has been 15 hours since the earth shook in Chile. The men who have relentlessly tracked the wave are now powerless. 12:40 a.m. A second wave enters Hilo Bay. Ignoring the warnings, curious residents come to the shore. These actual photographs were taken minutes before the giant wave struck. At 1 a.m., the water recedes, sucked into the approaching tidal wave. Eight waves attacked Hilo. More than 250 homes and businesses were demolished, another 300 damaged. Loss of property amounted to more than $40 million. 61 people were killed. Another 200 were caught in the wave. James Look's body was found near the bridge he had thought was safe. Ironically, his detailed notes and eyewitness accounts were lost. 2 decades have not wiped out the memories.
This mark here shows the 1960 May 23rd tidal wave. This is how high the wave has come in this particular restaurant.
I find that being curious is one of the worst things that can happen to a human being. People should never be curious in the event that there is a tidal wave coming.
The wave had hit us, and the dining room set went against the back door, so we couldn't go out anyway.
Things happened so fast that I was running away from the wave, and I just couldn't think about anything else but running.
Harry Kim of the Hawaii County Civil Defense.
The 1960 tsunami was a tragic experience, I think, primarily because the Hawaii County government, state government, territory, civil defense, to me, I cannot put it in no other words except we botched the job. The warning was poor, the evacuation system was non-existent, the setting up of inundation lines were non-existent.
The 1960 wave proved that something had to be done to prevent another disaster. To rebuild the downtown seemed futile. Unless the right answers were found, Hilo would be doomed to more death and destruction. The Look Laboratory, named after James Look, was set up at the University of Hawaii to help solve Hilo's unique problem. Simulated waves are generated in wave tanks. Preventing tidal waves seems unlikely, but scientists such as Professor Franz Gerritsen hope they can improve tsunami predictions. Dr. Gerritsen explains why Hilo is so vulnerable to tsunami attack.
The city of Hilo has been hit hard several times from various tsunamis. Hilo is situated on a bay inside of a harbor, and the geometry of the bay and the special location of the bay make it very vulnerable because tsunami waves that arrive in the area are magnified, as you may call it, inside the bay and create large run-ups near the shoreline. Such happened in the 1960 tsunami wave in Hilo, when a breaking tsunami wave entered Hilo Bay and did great damage on the shoreline.
The residents of Hilo had had enough. Their solution? Rebuild the devastated downtown away from the shore, away from the wave's destructive force. A 300-acre park now confronts the sea. The open park space acts as a buffer, protecting the 27,000 residents of Hilo. When the next giant wave strikes, hopefully only trees and grass will be destroyed.
Since World War II, more Americans have been killed by tidal waves than by earthquakes. Most of the United States is relatively safe from tsunami attack. But the possibility does exist that the violent forces of the earth and the sea may combine, sending a tidal wave speeding toward our populated shores.
"30 million Americans live on the West Coast, most never having experienced a tidal wave. People associate the West Coast with earthquakes, not tidal waves. What would happen if a tidal wave were racing towards Southern California? In Search Of simulates this possibility. Let's assume an earthquake rocks Japan, generating a tsunami. Commander Ed Bernard of the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center will issue the alert.
Tsunami's heading for the West Coast. We better issue a tsunami warning supplement.
Okay, Ed. The expected time of arrival of the wave on the West Coast is 4 hours.
The Coast Guard in Los Angeles would receive the bulletin.
Okay, just got a tsunami warning. The ETA, Southern California, is about 4 hours. You want to take care of the UMIB, I'll take care of the warning message. Handle San Diego and go north. I'll take Santa Barbara, go south with the harbor departments. Right. All Coast Guard vessels, this is RCC channel 83. Roger, a tsunami has been generated off of the Japanese coast.
Approximately is 4 hours. Take necessary evasive action.
Attention. This is a tidal wave warning. A tidal wave may strike this beach. Please evacuate immediately and move to higher ground. Attention. This is a tidal wave warning.
The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center has issued a tidal wave warning for Southern California. The Civil Defense has called for an immediate evacuation of all coastal areas. The U.S. Coast Guard advises boat owners to move their boats out to sea immediately. The police ask curiosity seekers to stay away from the coast.
Would Los Angeles be prepared? If an actual tidal wave was coming, would the warning be heeded? Experts agree it is not a question of whether another tidal wave will strike, but when. scientists fear most is a tsunami caused by a local earthquake. Lieutenant Stephen Froelich of the U.S. Coast Guard.
If an earthquake occurred fairly close to the coastline in Southern California, in other words, maybe a couple miles offshore, we would probably not have time if a tsunami was generated to really warn anyone. Hopefully, if it was that close, we wouldn't have to worry about it building up enough to have any great effect. But if there was, it would be almost instantaneous.
If a large earthquake occurred in Southern California, if you were on the beach, you felt the earth shaking strongly enough that you had to hold on to something to keep from falling down, that's nature's warning to you. We cannot possibly get a warning to you in 5 minutes, but you can save yourself by getting to higher ground.
Coming up next, In Search Of continues with a revealing look at the survivors of the atomic tragedy of Hiroshima. Then the FBI Behavioral Unit creates the profile of a brutal killer, and agents track him down on FBI, The Untold Stories. And later tonight, History's Mysteries journeys to the Southwest to investigate the strange disappearance of the Anasazi people. At 8, here on the